Good morning, great Americans. It's another great American video from Kentucky. Well, I wrote my article about chopping the head off a day too soon. Chopping the head off of that being referring to Iran. And right after I did my article and right after I made my other video, sure enough, boom, kaboom! Bunker busters are dropping like whatever. So that is great. So listen, in my article that I just wrote, God, I wish I had waited a day. I mentioned, look, for all the people who are getting angry, this is guaranteed to happen. Trump cannot say good morning without having 1,000 test people calling him Hitler and wanting to impeach him. That's all he has to do is say good morning and get 10 new impeachments and 20 new haters. So look, what I mentioned in the article I just wrote is, look, Iran committed an act of war against America back in 1979. Now, if you weren't alive then, you're not going to remember the impact that had, but that was a big deal. They invaded our sovereign territory, which was our embassy, which is, politically, that's considered to be sovereign territory of any country. That's why every embassy you'll see the country's troops in there. We have Marines at our embassies and stuff because it's sovereign territory. They they went into our embassy. They invaded our sovereign territory. They took the American citizens and held them prisoner for a year. That was an act of war. So going back to 1979, Iran committed an act of war. And, at the time, President Carter, he really screwed up, man. He should have just wiped their asses. Can you imagine how different the world would be when, after the very first major terrorist attack, we responded by just wiping out the nation? Do you think there would have been a lot less terrorist attacks? Do you think? Huh? No, but instead, Pussy Carter, he just limp wristed his way through it. And ever since then, Iran has been the sponsor of just hundreds and hundreds of various terrorist acts through their proxies, through Hamas, through Hezbollah, some of them directly. But whatever, I mean, they have earned their utter destruction. We would have every right to level that country and turn the entire place into a glass parking lot if we wanted to. No war powers act necessary. They attacked first and we respond. But, Trump, what Trump did was, in my opinion, was too little too late. But still, kudos to him for finally being the first American president to have the balls to finally hit the target. I mentioned in my last article, one of my favorite lines from a Star Trek movie uh, is the Wrath of Khan, and Kirk is talking to Khan, and he goes, "You've managed to kill just about everybody else, but like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target." Right? And that's what we have been doing for 46 years. We've been hitting all around Iran. We've been Afghanistan, Iraq, all kinds of stuff, but we never hit the real target. So kudos to Trump for at least doing that. And thank God for Israel, which kind of paved the way, because if Israel had not done this, I don't think we would have. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I think it made it a lot easier for us. But anyway, but here's what this video is about. I had an epiphany today. I was driving to the store, I was listening to the radio, and I had one of those moments of clarity. You ever have one of those? It's pretty interesting when all of a sudden you have this moment of shining clarity and you see something and you're like, whoa, it's right there in front of me the whole time. So what am I talking about? I think, now I can't prove this is my opinion, because it was my epiphany, but I think that it's possible that this bombing by Trump is actually part of one of the most brilliant plans, military plans ever conceived in at least, the last 50 or 100 years. I'm going to tell you why. I want you to listen to me very carefully, please. Now, ever since, so for many decades, we have never fought side by side with the Israelis. You ever notice that? In the first Gulf War, Old Man Bush purposely told the Israelis to sit it out, stay out of it. Even if they bomb you, and the Scuds, remember the Scuds were hitting Israel? He said, do not react. Why? Because he had a lot of Arab countries in the big coalition for the big liberation of Kuwait, all kinds of Arab countries, and bringing the Israelis in would have just caused all kinds of politics. It's just politics, unfortunately, prevents us from acting with Israelis in joint military ventures because it just causes all sorts of ripple effects throughout the Arab world and all that kinds of stuff. So you have never seen us jump in with the Israelis when they're on some military mission, right? And likewise, when we went into the Gulf War, the two Gulf Wars, Afghanistan, and all that kind of stuff, you didn't see the Israelis jumping in with us. We never fight. Now, I want you to think real hard about that. I think this is part of the brilliance of this plan, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the Israelis were bombing Iran. And I will bet you that everybody, and I mean everybody, in every intelligence community probably thought, it's the same thing is going to happen here. This is an Israeli operations. The Americans are not going to jump in. They never do. It's just going to be Israeli. And so I think that nobody expected America to jump in. Now, that's part one of the brilliance of the plan. Now, here's part two. Israel is very smart. They're very creative. They have very small weapons, but boy, they know how to, they use their planes in conjunction with guys on the ground doing secret stuff and like hiding bombs in places. They're very creative, and what that little bitty country did to Iran is amazing, but they're very limited. And so even though they wreaked a lot of havoc at the ground level, they killed a lot of Iranians in their like apartment buildings and all that stuff, and they did wipe out a number of facilities at the ground level. Some of those big facilities with the deep underground level, they didn't hit that. So they didn't get that. They got the top part right, but they didn't get down below. So now listen to this. I'm quite sure that the Iranians and everybody else are thinking, well, look, this is the worst that the Israelis can do to us. They can't get to the underground. It's possible that the Iranians may have moved stuff into the lower levels, thinking, let's move our stuff down lower because the Israelis can't hit it, and the Americans never joined the Israelis, so that's not going to be a problem. So we're cool. We're lulled into a false sense of security, thinking that the worst of the damage has passed. The underground facilities remain unscathed, and they're good to go. They just need to sit it out for a few more days. But then Trump did what no American president has ever done. He joined with the Israelis. And while they scraped the top off those facilities, Trump came in and obliterated them the rest of the way, what nobody expected. Like I said, now some of you may have thought this would happen because you're not a student of history, but if you remember what I'm telling you, no American president has ever militarily jumped in side by side into any Israeli operation. And there was no reason to think we would now. But we did. And that is why this was brilliant. This is a deception of playing chess. This is a deception so many levels above what everybody thinks. It's unbelievable. Then there was the little deceptions, like he was going to wait 2 weeks, and oh, we're going to wait and see, or we're going to give him a chance and stuff like that. But really, but intelligence officers in various intelligence agencies were probably, they always tend to go with what they know and have history repeat itself. And they're probably all saying the same thing. Americans, it's bad politics for American soldiers to jump in with Israeli soldiers. They're not going to do it. They've never done it. They're not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And he did it. And I think he planned on doing it all along. I think, and here's the brilliance of this plan, I think that this so-called rift or argument between Netanyahu and Trump, which was being reported a few weeks ago, I think it was all bullshit. It was all bullshit. It was all bullshit to make the world think that Israel felt all alone. It had to go in and do it all by itself. And so people were just kicking back, waiting for Israelis to do the most they could do, but they could never touch the underground things. And Iran thought those bunkers were safe, and then came the unthinkable. We joined with the Israelis for the first time in a major military operation, and we pulled out the biggest motherfucking bombs we got, except for nukes. But aside from nukes, we pulled out the biggest fuckers. Fucking the B-2 bomber is pretty big, and it can only carry two of those things, man. And boom! I'm telling you, I think that was the plan all along, knowing that we never join Israelis for political reasons. Like I said, when we join Israelis, it is all kinds of terrible. The Arab world goes berserk, so we never do it. We never do it just because it just causes a political mess. So there was no reason to think we'd do it this time. And then there was the fake rift between Trump and Netanyahu that wasn't real, that was fake. It was brilliant. This was a combination of a psyop, of chess moves, like 100 moves ahead, of fooling everybody. This was an act of brilliance. And here's the part I love. This is, for me, this is the cherry on the cake. All the so-called wannabe experts, right, who have told us for decades, oh, Iran's too big. If you go into Iran, it's going to be World War III. Going into Iran, World War III. Do you see World War III? I don't see World War III. I see the Israelis beat the snot out of the Iranians, and then we came by and kicked them in the fucking head. And they're not going to do shit. And China's not going to do shit, and Russia's not going to do shit, and nobody's going to do shit. And I predicted this years ago, that if we just went in and stomped those bastards, that nobody's going to do anything about it because nobody likes the Iranians. Oh, sure, Putin may have relations with the Iranians for military reasons, of convenience, right? Not because he likes them, not because they have similar cultures or similar histories, mere convenience. And I told people, and I've said for years, and even people on Fox News get this all wrong. They all keep saying that attacking Iran is too big of a deal. It's going to cause World War III. Russia's going to react. China's going to react. The doom and the gloom and the apocalypse and all this shit. And we did it. And the motherfuckers didn't do shit except roll over and take it. And that is why this is the most brilliant military operation in modern American history. My God, I love Trump more today than I've ever had before. And I have never been a bigger supporter of any other politician than Trump. And I've supported him so much. And today I support him 100 times more. This man is the greatest president in American history. And I tell you what, this brilliant military operation, it may well have saved Israel and the Jews from utter nuclear destruction at the hands of these terrorist animals in Iran. And we may have saved ourselves from some future nuclear terrorist event. Trump will never get credit for this. Nobody will ever say it. But yesterday, Trump may well have saved this nation yet again from its own short-sightedness and weakness, and the weakness of Democrats and all that stuff. So that was my epiphany that I had. All that was my epiphany that I had driving in my car yesterday, and I can't prove it. But I tell you what, I will go to Vegas today and bet $1,000 that I'm correct. But of course, can't do that because there's no way to prove it. But you know what I'm saying. So, man, we are so lucky to have Trump. You know what? You know what's really a pisser is that all these freaky, goofy, idiot, moron Democrats on the left with their no king shit and all their stupid pronouns and all these fucking tranny freaks. Trump has literally saved them. They owe that man their lives. They owe that man their future, and they're too stupid to even know it, and they will continue to attack him. Isn't that a crying shame? Isn't that sad? Well, I tell you what, I will always be a Trump supporter. And if he can find some way to legally, if he can find some way to legally run for a third term, I'll give him half my savings. There's nobody like Trump, man. So anyway, that's it for today, folks. Special day. Uh, uh, and I will see you in the next great American video. Adios, muchachos.